This is Bizz Beyond the Suit.
Welcome to Bizz. You're here, Gavin.
Yes.
I'm so excited. How long have we been talking about you coming on this podcast?
Probably since the very start.
I think,
and I'm super excited to
I've
be
been
here.
pestering you, haven't I? But I haven't given up. So yes, I'm very excited today to have Gavin Williams, who is the Managing Director of Southampton Airport, with me. Can we start by you giving us a little bit about your background, please?
Okay, so I suppose my journey within aviation started really young. That I've always had a bit of a passion for it, always been a bit of an aviation geek, wanted to go to do plane spotting with my family as a young boy. And then, like most children, you go and do work experience at school, and I managed to get a placement at East Midlands Airport. So
Oh, wow.
I actually live in Nottingham, and that's my local airport, regional airport. So I managed to get a placement there, did 2 weeks working in many different departments, and absolutely loved the experience. So kind of always thought at some point I would head back that way. I took the route through college, doing travel and tourism, then went and did business management tourism at University of Loughborough, but realised that university wasn't for me. So decided that I was going to take the opportunity very early on to come out of that and work my way up and through. So started off in hotels. There wasn't really a role for me at the airport at the time when I looked. So worked for Marriott Hotels in conference and banqueting, then transitioned to Centre Parks, worked for Centre Parks for 8 years. Amazing company, really good experience within leisure, and did a lot there within food and beverage and operations, and then that was transferable into airports because it's very similar that a lot of people arrive in mass. There's big peaks and troughs throughout the day. There's lots of different things on site, whether it be food and beverage, retail, accommodation. So it was all transferable skills back into aviation, and an opportunity came up at East Midlands Airport and as the airport duty manager. So
Fantastic.
moved over to that, spent a few years there, really enjoyed it. And East Midlands Airport is owned by Manchester Airport Group, a group of airports. So they own East Midlands, Manchester, Stansted. They used to own Bournemouth, but they don't anymore. At the time they did. So there was a lot of opportunity to move internally. So I first started at East Midlands, then I went and did a couple of years at Stansted, and then Manchester, which was great. I had an amazing role at Manchester. My role was to look at the future of airport technology. So I was travelling the world, going to all these amazing countries, seeing all these really incredible things. And then COVID hit. So at that time, they didn't know what was happening next week. Never mind, I was looking 20, 30 years ahead. So I was on furlough, like most people in the UK, having a great time in the garden, topping up the tan. It was wonderful, very much like today outside. Really enjoying it. But very quickly realised that I didn't know if there was going to be a role at the end of this. So explored kind of what my options were outside of hospitality and aviation. I started up a business. It was very different, but it was an area that was very busy, food manufacturing. So went off and did that very successfully for 3 years. Managed to run that business really well. Decided then that it was time to come back when aviation started to grow. And that's when I reached out to the aviation industry to see what was available. And this role at Southampton came up. And it's really interesting that, you know, there's so much potential that this airport has to offer. So thinking about everything that I've picked up through my career, this was really something that stood out to me as a great opportunity. And that's kind of how I got to where I am today. So I've been there since January last year, early last year, and so much has kind of developed and grown, and I'm sure we'll discuss shortly. We're going through new ownership at the moment. There's a real change in kind of our direction, and it's really exciting time for us to kind of give back to the region and grow the connectivity, which is really exciting.
All that untapped potential, isn't there? Yeah. So, rolling back a little bit, so you mentioned that you decided to leave university early. Is that that was a difficult decision, I would imagine? Is that something that you regret?
No, so I think one of the main reasons I struggled is that I'm really dyslexic. So I talk very openly about it, that it's something for me that I really do struggle with. And when I took that next step up to the next academic level, I really did see a big difference. And there was support there. The university were great, but I just knew that it wasn't going to be an easy 4 years, and it's a lot to sign up to. I also found out at that stage that I was going to be a father for the first time. So there was also constraints around having to fund a lifestyle whilst doing it at university. So it was the right decision for me. I've had a number of opportunities throughout my career to go back and do additional studies. But actually, as I sit here today, I don't feel it's massively impacted me. I wouldn't say that to my children. I absolutely advocate them to go. But for me, it's something that I don't regret. At the time, it was a life decision, and I knew it was going to be a struggle. And actually, it's probably just pushed me more in the other way to really focus on my career and do everything I can to push and drive, because I know that I don't have that behind me.
Yeah. And what about your family background? What did your mum and dad do?
Yeah, so my mum and dad were very much middle-class working family. My dad has worked at Boots for many, many years. He's one of the longest-standing employees in the whole of Boots, which is obviously a big employer in Nottingham. My mum did a number of jobs throughout, supporting me and my brother. So just, I would say, a normal upbringing. They separated when I was very young. Apologies. They separated when I was very young, but actually the life that we had was a good life. But yeah,
it gave you a good foundation.
Absolutely.
For everything that you've gone on to do. So you talked a bit there about the untapped potential at Southampton. Let's talk about what could be happening there now. Yeah. You've mentioned as well with the new ownership. What does that actually mean for Southampton?
Yeah. So when I joined, I was very much sold this vision of where they want to be. So for those that don't know about Southampton Airport, we're a regional airport. We'll always be a regional airport that's there to support the local community. And back in 2019, we were just over 2 million passengers flying to a number of destinations across Europe and domestically. But 83% of that business was driven through a company called Flybe. They were an airline. For those that know, Flybe went into administration in 2019, right before the pandemic. So irrelevant of COVID, the business lost 83% of their work overnight. And it's now about the recovery of that. As we know today, business travel isn't the same as it used to be. So we needed to look at a new strategy for the airport. And what we decided was that we were going to look into the leisure market, really looking at outward connectivity so that people that live locally can fly and use their regional airport. So that was the strategy. To do that, they needed to do a number of things. The first part of that was deliver a runway extension. The runway was rather small because we were operating propeller aircraft, and we needed to go to the jet market very much, A320s, that sort of stuff. So we did a runway extension back end of, 2 years ago, and we extended the runway by 164 metres. That runway extension meant that we could operate these aircraft. There is still some constraints, so we have obstacles around our airport that we need to manage, and we haven't quite got over that hurdle yet, but we're working very closely to do that. But now our focus is around winning that market. So we took on EasyJet this time last year. It was the first time they kind of operated out of us. They started with one route 3 times a week. I sit here today and we're at 7 destinations 28 times a week within a year. Brilliant. So real growth, and there's some real great routes in there. So we announced last week that we're now flying to Paris. What a great route that these people that live locally to this airport can now go and do city breaks and visit family and all of that sort of stuff. So that's kind of where we are today. We've gone through new ownership. So we were originally owned by 2 investment companies. We've now been purchased by a company called Avi Alliance. So Avi aren't new to the market. They work and operate out of Dusseldorf. They own a number of airports across Europe, or have shares within a number of airports. So they very much know what they're doing in this space, but they've come in as a long-term partner and investor for us. So they've bought the business for £1.53 billion. That's a huge investment. They did buy Glasgow, Aberdeen and Southampton, so that's a group of airports. But what a huge investment and kind of change for us. But they've come in and they want to kind of really grow this business. They see the potential in the airport. They know that we're at 2 million passengers. This year we'll probably hit just over 1 million, so we're only 50% recovery from 2019, which is a way off the UK market. A lot of other airports have bounced back even better than pre-COVID, and we're not there yet. We know why that is. Obviously, recovering 83% of business is very difficult, but they want to and see the growth that it can offer. So we have a cap at 3 million passengers. That's where we are as part of the runway extension that was put in place. But we want to get back to those pre-COVID levels. That's our focus. And we're working with our commercial team and aviation team that are out promoting Southampton. What is it? Why do we want to come here? What's our captive audience and what's our catchment area? That's so important that actually the south of England has got a huge catchment area It's quite an affluent area. It's an ageing demographic that want to go out and travel and see Europe. So the market is there. It's about how we promote it and how we can use it. As I said, there's restrictions at the moment because we have obstacles, and very candidly, those obstacles could be anything from signs to posts to lampposts to trees, and there's a number of them around our airfield that we need to manage. That's a CAA regulation, who are our body. So,
and did you, having extended the runway, did you realise that there were these issues as well?
It came as part of it. Yeah. So we knew that if we extended the runway, we would have to manage these obstacles as well. Yeah. But what this did for us is we got the runway signed off, but not the obstacles. So we've put in a number of applications. We're about to put in another one, which we feel is really well suited based on the feedback we've had previously. We've worked very closely with the council on this. We've had the time to work with them, their environmental team, their sustainability team, to minimise this impact and also give back. We're not just here to make these changes outside of the airport. We want to work with the community and enhance our reputation and our support to the region. Yeah. So, we've got a really good case this time. We're hoping that we'll get this through, and then that will then unlock a huge amount of potential. So at the moment, we can fly what's called nautical miles, and we can fly just under 900 nautical miles. So for those visually, that's kind of south of Spain, north Italy, kind of northwest, here we go, northeast, southwest, northwest of Europe, looking at that market. But if we can reduce these obstacles and make these smaller and kind of manage them in the way that we want, we can fly 2,100 nautical miles, which is then Tenerife, Turkey, Greece, all these areas that unlock winter sun and everything else that comes with that. So the opportunity is really big for the impact that we can have. And ultimately what we want to do is just capture our own catchment. So we're never going to be Heathrow and Gatwick and everywhere else, but we know today that there's 8 million journeys made for people living in the SO postcode. That's just Southampton. 8 million journeys. And I've just said that we only captured 1 million of those. Yeah. The rest of them are flying via other airports. Yeah. And that impact to the environment just for that travel alone is huge. Yeah. So yes, there are impacts from the management of our obstacles, but we're trying to reduce that by having people operate out of our airport. And from terms of connectivity, Southampton is so well placed with a train station on the door, really great bus link that I've used today to get here. Yeah. It's so fantastically connected that to be able to have those new network and route out into Europe would be a great option for people that live here and actually you use it.
You were out at MIPIM with Business South recently and promoting the Central South region and talking about how important the airport is. What was that experience like for you, Gavin?
Absolutely. It was a great stage for Southampton to shout about all the great things it can offer. Even just reading some of it myself about the universities we've got, the businesses that are supplied here, the amount of cruise tourism that we have. We're a great feeder network to that, and having an international airport on their doorstep is a huge positive. Yeah. So to be able to walk around and see the other exhibits, see what everybody else is doing, and actually Southampton stands really proud with that it has got a lot to offer. There's so much potential that this region could have if unlocked in the right way. Yeah. And so for me, being there was really important. One, to talk about Southampton and what we're doing. We have the Navigator Quarter was one of the main reasons we went, which is part of the Solent Freeport. We have a huge site there that we wanted to talk about and meet these investors, but also just to reiterate the importance of having this airport in the region and everywhere that we can go and can do, and supporting all of those conversations that the council and the businesses were all there talking about, saying we're here to support them and we absolutely see that we can add more value. Yeah. The actual process then of getting an EasyJet or another company to come in, does that take quite a long time? It seems that you're working on these deals for quite a time to make it happen. Absolutely, yeah. So I suppose your holiday now, you can book your holiday for next summer. So airlines are booking 2 to 3 years, even 4 years ahead. They're planning that now. So the conversations that we're having are very much into the future. We know that at the moment we've got these restrictions which kind of deter these airlines coming to us because they've got other airports where they don't have the restrictions. So it's about us unlocking that. But the aviation world is really interesting. Just to be clear to everybody that's watching this and listening, we are out there constantly promoting this airport and promoting the value we can have through delivering here. And that works very clearly with EasyJet. They came in, they saw the potential, and it's grown astronomically in 12 months. What's it going to do in 2 to 3 years' time? And that's opening the eyes of other airports. The way it's done is actually really interesting. So we're very much out there in the market, and there's something called Routes, and we just held it a few weeks ago in Seville. So this is where those aviation team go out and talk about Southampton and what it does, and it's like speed dating.
Oh, right.
So they sit down and you match up and say, "Hi, we're Southampton Airport. We got all these great things. Come and fly from us." And then the commercial team sit there and talk about all the great things, and then the airline move on to the next airport that they want to talk to.
Yeah.
And we were there for the whole week. All of our senior team went, our new owners went, and they really saw the value in kind of driving what we've got and our potential. And the airlines see it. They do see it. And we have a lot of conversations going on in the background, none of which I can talk about.
Of course.
But they're all there and they're happening. They just take time, especially when we have these constraints.
Yeah.
We very much hope that when we remove these constraints, all of a sudden these airlines are going to start really coming in. And again, just to be clear, this is not about us growing into this huge airport. We're not having bigger planes. We're not having noisier planes. Aviation has got much quieter with the introduction of some of the new NEO technology and aircraft and that sort of stuff. And this is about us working with those airlines just to grow the connectivity.
And will it be, because it seemed that, you know, as the airport was operating with Flybe, you had all your eggs in one basket, really, didn't you, with that operator? Yeah. And was that as much that they were asking for that? Did they want to be the sort of kingpin, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, we're a business.
Yeah.
And if an airline comes to you and says, we want to grow and we want to keep developing, and you're going to struggle to turn that business down. It's a very difficult thing to say no, because you put more eggs in a basket.
Yeah.
If there's more eggs going in that basket, ultimately that's what you want.
Yeah.
It was a decision at the time that really fitted the world. Going back to 2018, that was the world we lived in. There was a lot of business travel. We were doing a lot of domestic routes. We were still short hopping into Europe. We were doing lots of smaller flights. So those aircraft, the Dash 8s and the Embraers and all of that, are smaller aircraft. They're holding like 50 to 70 passengers, and these aircraft are now much bigger. But those smaller routes fit the purpose at the time.
Yeah.
The world's changed. You know, we sit on Teams, we don't travel as much.
Yeah.
That isn't the world that we're in now. So rebuilding from that is the key, and it's rebuilding in a new market for us.
Yeah.
So it's opening those doors.
Yeah, really exciting. You talked about the new technology that's coming to the aviation industry. Will some of that be coming to Southampton?
Absolutely. Some of those things are really out there. I'm talking robots, I'm talking drone taxis, I'm talking really advanced things. We're not there, but we are putting a lot of number of things in. So over the last 12 months that we've been there, we've put in now self-service kiosks. So the world has moved on, and instead of going to a check-in desk and physically talking to someone, people can now check their own bag in. They can arrive, scan their boarding card, print a tag out for a bag, drop their bag off and process considerably quicker than they would go into a desk. So we've put 8 of those kiosks in. Advanced technology. We've just put in something called Hello Sow. It's like a QR code that's all over the airport, and you can log on there and give live feedback, ask questions, talk to a representative that answers things straight away, because we don't have customer service staff just roaming around. We're a small regional airport, but people have got access to get the answer. So there's a lot of those technological advances that are coming through. Again, the same week as they were at Routes promoting the airport, there was another event in Madrid called Passenger Terminal Expo, and that's where all these businesses come together to promote what the future of technology is. And we're looking at that. We're out there seeing what's coming, seeing what's available to us, talking to new customers and businesses to see what we can bring in and test pilot. Again, another advantage of being a small regional airport is that we're a great test beds for some of these things.
Yeah.
If you go and try and deliver new technology in Heathrow, it's a big job. We're a small airport, single terminal, easy operations for people to come and try these, and we'd like to be those test beds. So we've done a number of schemes and projects over the years where we've tried to just be at the forefront of it, which has been really popular.
Yeah, and which is really cool, especially with, you know, the sort of the historical links that obviously we have with Spitfires and all that sort of thing. So to be going from that to, you know, the very latest is very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So looking to the future then, we're not looking at Southampton becoming the next Gatwick, obviously, but we're going to have more passengers coming through and more lines operating from Southampton. What about on price? Is that something that you can deal with for passengers coming through as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we grow, actually our aircraft numbers, aircraft movements we call them, reduce, because before we were only carrying 50 passengers on a plane and now we're carrying 200. So we only need one plane versus 4. So our actual aircraft movements are down considerably. We want them to grow, but as they grow, those aircraft numbers still won't be relative to the passenger numbers. The destinations and the price are obviously very much determined by the airline. We don't pick the pricing, but the more popular the route, the lower the price becomes, because more people are using that service. So obviously the low-cost carrier market is an area that a lot of people are looking towards now. So that's the focus, that with those carriers, we're talking to them, we want them to be with us, we want them to operate out of us, but we've got to convince them that the market is there when it's untested, because that's not something that they've had before. Our aviation team have to work really hard to do the sell and say, absolutely, this works. And I think EasyJet took that leap and has clearly shown that it's worked, and that what we call load factors, the amount of people booking on that plane, are really strong. So what was just a let's trial has already developed into something very big. What we need now is some more airlines to come on board, and as more airlines come on, that brings some healthy competition. By healthy competition, that will have different fare prices. So we don't determine those prices, but we very much work with the airlines to make sure that they're selling routes that have got value to the region.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Really, really fascinating.
Thank you. Thanks
Gavin.
for having me.
Yeah, thank you.